Long, long ago, in a beautiful kingdom called Hastinapur, there lived a royal family who were loved by all their people. Hastinapur was a magical place with huge palaces, beautiful gardens, and brave warriors. It's about two groups of cousins, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, who both wanted to rule the kingdom. Let me tell you how they were born. Our story begins with King Shantanu, who ruled Hastinapur. One day, while walking by the river Ganges, he saw a beautiful woman. She was actually the goddess Ganga in human form. Shantanu asked Ganga to marry him, and she agreed. And Shantanu fell in love with her right away. But with one condition: he must never question anything she does. The king was so in love that he promised. They got married and lived happily. Soon Ganga gave birth to a baby boy. But to Shantanu's horror, she took the baby to the river and dropped him in the water. Shantanu remembered his promise and stayed quiet. This happened 7 times, and Shantanu was very sad. When Ganga was about to drop their 8th child into the river, Shantanu couldn't bear it anymore. He stopped her and asked why she was doing this. Ganga explained that the babies were gods cursed to be born as humans. By drowning them, she was freeing them from their curse. But because Shantanu broke his promise, she had to leave him. However, she spared their 8th son, named Devavrata, who later became known as Bhima, a great warrior. Many years passed. Devavrata grew up to be a strong and noble prince. King Shantanu, who had been alone since Ganga left, went hunting one day. Near the river, he met a beautiful fisher girl named Satyavati. Shantanu fell in love with Satyavati and wanted to marry her. But her father, the chief of fishermen, had a condition. He would only allow the marriage if Satyavati's future son would become the next king of Hastinapur. This was a problem because Devavrata was the rightful heir to the throne. When Devavrata learned about his father's sadness, he went to meet Satyavati's father. There, he made 2 great promises that changed everything. First, Devavrata promised that he would never become king. Second, he vowed that he would never marry or have children, so that no one could ever challenge the right of Satyavati's children to the throne. This terrible promise was called Bhima. Shantanu and Satyavati had 2 sons named Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Sadly, Shantanu died when they were still young. Chitrangada became king but died in a battle. Then Vichitravirya became king and married 2 princesses. Unfortunately, Vichitravirya died young without having any children. This created a big problem for the kingdom, as there was no heir to the throne. Satyavati had to find a solution to continue the royal family line. With Satyavati's request, Vyasa blessed Vichitravirya's wives. One wife gave birth to a baby boy named Dhritarashtra, who was born blind. The other wife gave birth to a son named Pandu, who had an unusually pale complexion. As they grew up, both princes were trained by Bhima in the arts of warfare and royal duties. Dhritarashtra grew very strong despite being blind. Pandu became skilled in archery and was kind-hearted. Everyone loved him. When it was time to choose the next king, the elders of the kingdom decided that Pandu should be king instead of Dhritarashtra. This was because a blind person could not effectively rule the kingdom according to their traditions. Pandu became the king of Hastinapur and proved to be a good ruler. He married 2 beautiful princesses named Kunti and Madri. Dhritarashtra was not jealous and married a princess named Gandhari from the kingdom of Gandhar. King Pandu was a great warrior who loved hunting in the forest. One day, he went hunting with his wives. Deep in the forest, he saw what he thought were 2 deer. He took his bow and shot an arrow at them. But these were not ordinary deer. They were actually a sage named Kindama and his wife who had taken the form of deer. Pandu's arrow killed them, and as the sage was dying, he revealed his true form. The dying sage was very angry. He cursed Pandu, saying, "Just as I was embracing my wife when you killed us, if you ever embrace either of your wives, you will die instantly." Then the sage and his wife died. Pandu was very sad and scared. He knew that he could never have children now because of the curse. He decided to give up his throne and live as a hermit in the forest with his wives. Dhritarashtra became the acting king of Hastinapur. Living in the forest, Pandu was sad that he could never have children. When he shared his sorrow with Kunti, she revealed a secret. Before marrying Pandu, She had been given a special mantra by a sage named Durvasa. This special mantra could call upon any god, who would then bless her with a child. With Pandu's permission, Kunti decided to use this mantra to have children. First, she called upon Dharma, the god of justice. Dharma blessed Kunti, and she gave birth to a son named Yudhishthira. He was born with the qualities of truth, righteousness, and wisdom. Everyone could see that he would grow up to be a just and fair person. Next, Kunti called upon Vayu, the god of wind. Vayu blessed her with a son named Bhima, who was born with extraordinary strength. Even as a baby, Bhima was so strong that when he fell on a rock, the rock shattered. For her third son, Kunti called upon Indra, the king of gods. From this blessing came Arjuna, who was destined to become the greatest archer in the world. The gods showered flowers from heaven when Arjuna was born. Seeing Kunti's 3 wonderful sons, Madri also wanted children. Kunti shared the mantra with her. Madri called upon the twin gods called Ashwini Kumars, who blessed her with twin boys named Nakula and Sahadeva. Nakula grew up to be the most handsome man in the world and was skilled in taking care of horses. Sahadeva became very wise and could understand the language of animals. These 5 boys together were called the Pandavas. Meanwhile, in Hastinapur, Dhritarashtra's wife Gandhari was expecting a child. When she heard that Kunti had given birth to Yudhishthira, she became jealous. She had been pregnant for a long time, but had not yet given birth. In her frustration, Gandhari struck her belly, and a hard ball of flesh came out instead of a baby. She was heartbroken. The great sage Vyasa came to help her. He told her to sprinkle water on the ball of flesh. When Gandhari did as she was told, the ball broke into 100 small pieces. Vyasa asked that each piece be put in a pot with special oils and herbs. He said that from these pots, 100 sons would be born. After some time, the first pot opened and out came a baby boy. They named him Duryodhana. The moment he was born, jackals began to howl, and bad omens appeared. The wise men warned that this child would bring destruction to the kingdom. Dhritarashtra loved his son and ignored the warnings. Over the next month, 99 more sons were born from the pots. Together, they were known as the Kauravas. Gandhari also had one daughter named Dushala. Back in the forest, the 5 Pandava brothers were growing up happily. They learned to hunt, fight, and survive in the forest. Pandu was proud of his sons, but was still sad because of his curse. One beautiful spring day, Pandu was walking in the forest with Madri. The flowers were blooming, birds were singing, and everything looked so beautiful. Pandu was so happy that he forgot about the curse. In a moment of forgetfulness, Pandu embraced Madri. Instantly the curse took effect, and Pandu fell to the ground, dead. Madri was shocked and heartbroken. She blamed herself for Pandu's death. Madri was so sad that she decided she could not live without Pandu. She climbed onto Pandu's funeral pyre and sacrificed her life. Kunti was now alone with the responsibility of raising all 5 boys. When the news of Pandu's death reached Hastinapur, Bhishma immediately went to the forest to bring Kunti and the 5 Pandavas back to the palace. The boys were excited to see the great city of Hastinapur for the first time. In Hastinapur, the Pandavas met their cousins, the Kauravas, for the first time. Duryodhana, the oldest Kaurava, did not like the Pandavas. He was jealous because people praised their skills and good behavior. The rivalry between the Pandavas and Kauravas began from that first day. As they grew older, the hatred in Duryodhana's heart grew stronger. He started planning ways to harm the Pandavas, especially when he saw how much everyone loved them. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, was known for always speaking the truth. Bhima was famous for his strength. Arjuna became the greatest archer in the world. The twins Nakula and Sahadeva were skilled with animals and were very wise. Meanwhile, Duryodhana and his brothers were becoming known for their tricks and mean behavior. They would try to hurt the Pandavas whenever they could. The stage was being set for a great conflict that would change everything. And so, the stage was set for the great story of the Mahabharata. The Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, grew up to be noble and righteous princes. The Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, chose the path of jealousy and hatred. The birth of these cousins was unusual and magical, but the choices they made determined their destiny. The Pandavas chose to follow Dharma, the path of righteousness, truth, and justice. The Kauravas chose the path of greed and anger. The lesson we learn from this story is that our birth may be special, but it's our choices that make us who we are. We should always choose to be kind, truthful, and fair like the Pandavas, even when it's difficult. Remember, little ones, we all have both good and bad inside us. Every day we can choose to be like the noble Pandavas or the angry Kauravas. What matters most is not how we are born, but how we choose to live our lives.
Check out our Lord Ganesha soft toy, link in the description and bio, and subscribe to Veda Epic Tales.